Hello there. Remember Dragon Ball Z? That also was from China. And what did it do to you? Made you a little animal that was dead like a dodo, absolutely extinct in your faculties, and you hung out about it until you could no longer recognize your face in the mirror. Not only that, you just kept on buying all this paraphernalia collectibles for way too much money because you're a Dragon Ball Z fan. China, anyway, so like it's very hot and we don't know what we're going to do with this heat except for just continue to talk, and hopefully by the time we're done, power cuts will be no more, because that's just what South Africa does, just cut you perpetually because they don't care that you're a human being. Anyway, whatever. So I was just explaining to you guys that the kings of the East, among them will likely be China. They'll probably make up the grandest majority of that large army, but also probably North Korea. Kim Jong-un, Oki, right? Yeah, North Korea and China, and they're already working together. Like, North Korea is so incredibly destructive of people's rights that you would imagine that a world superpower so respected as China would just like not want to have anything to be associated with it. But every time people from North Korea try to defect from their very oppressive land, if they dare find themselves in China, on Chinese territory, they're gonna get deported back to North Korea. There is no mercy. The only place that North Koreans can defect to that's just next door is South Korea. China is not an option. Anybody that has defected to China from North Korea will end up a prostitute if they're a woman, and if they're a man, they will end up a slave in a factory in China. That is only if they don't even get found out as having been from North Korea. If they get found to be from North Korea, they'll just have to go and, like hand 10 there in Beijing and take that train that just takes them to North Korea. Because what in the world are you doing? Leaving our oppressive, like, hyper-megalomaniacal fascist regime. What are you doing leaving? You don't get to leave, okay? That's China. It stands fast with Kim Jong-un despite him being a mega maniac, alright? Very well. So I wouldn't be surprised if Kim Jong-un or China, whoever might be alive at the time, hopefully it's them, because really I would love for this to happen as in tomorrow, because I just want to go home. Yeah, I believe they're just going to come together and be like, bring me your big army, I'll take my army, and as kings of the East, we're just going to go march and march and march, and literally try and come up against the king of the world. As it stands, North Korea is heavily persecuting of the Church of the Lord Jesus Christ. It is standing somewhere on like number 1 or 2 in the world's most abusive nations towards Christians. It's got this like this prison camp system where they just kind of arrest you because you said Christ is king or something. That's North Korea. And then China, it's like, okay, look, I believe it's first Afghanistan, and the only reason why Afghanistan is number 1 is because of what happened with the pulling out by Joe Biden. And then China, North Korea is number 2. And then I think there's like some other countries there like Iran and Nigeria, and then you get China. In light of how abusive they are to Christians, they like all are in the top 5 or something of the worst countries to live in as a believer in the Lord Jesus Christ. The only reason why China is number 5 and not number 1 is because they're trying to give some kind of a fake appearance or fake reputation for allowing religious rights. They want the world to embrace them, because look at what a pariah state a Lone Ranger Kim Jong-un is, hey? They're in North Korea because he's just like flagrantly and outwardly very oppressive of the people's rights on the ground. So China doesn't want to be a pariah, and so otherwise they're not going to get their superpower status, and so therefore they appear on paper to be content with religious freedoms when they're not. So you can call yourself a Christian in China, but you're going to be like washed like a hawk, and your cross cannot be like left dangling there on the top of your church or whatever. So that's what in the world is happening in China. It is abusive, but they're trying to hide it, and for those reasons it's a lot more tolerable to live as a Christian in China than it would be in North Korea or Afghanistan or Iran, or you get point. Okay, very well, very cool, very beans, and very bananasy. So these two like nations likely add maybe 1 or 2, Turkey on the side, I don't know, and they will just go on right ahead and think that they can sword down a cosmic being, mighty in splendor, lamb slain before the fine and the foundations of the earth, down with your guns and your long and short range missiles alongside your nukes. Think you can go and bomb Christ? Okay, very well, all the best. All the best. They are the most atheistic, abusive nation in the world. against religions, period. And Christ is that massive be-all and end-all of a threat to a Chinese ideal. They want to be a world superpower, and Christ is going to be the ruler of the planet in a one world government, finally, that is holy. And that will be running for 1,000 years. But according to Chi Ching 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 Ping Ping, not on my watch, Jesus. That had to happen. We get to burp. Not on my watch, Christ. Please, like Blom, who are you? The God of the Christians? Oh, please. Look at how I've dumbed down with Pokemon, Dragon Ball Z, and Kung Fu. Look at how I have smothered the whole planet with dizziness using TikTok. Look at how I have conquered the world superpower, the United States of America. I made their military a bunch of wusses, wimps, and banana peels slipping around all over the show. I done did it cause I'm that dude. I done did it cause I'm that dude. Oh, goodness gracious me. And so they're going to feel like they're going to do it because they're that dude against even Christ. They're going to think that if they could bring down America, of which I understand is not in Bible prophecy, for the very reason that it will eventually get couped. It will be flattened because they are subjugating themselves to the tyranny of what China is doing. They're allowing it. If anything, the worst thing that's ever happened to the United States of America is the woke agenda that has gone on to fluffy up, girly up, and soften the muscles of the army in there so that they're not strong enough. It's this pudgy environment with very little common sense. They are puberty blocking, wreaking havoc in young children's lives. The might of their future army is subscribing to the LGBTQIA agenda and even transitioning. So those strong men and boys are, becoming girls now. And so the whole army is just this fluff machine. And if you've got an army full of girls and trans men, I'm sorry, what's gonna happen over there, ladies and gentlemen, is you're gonna get mowed down by the tanks of Ungi, by the tanks of Pingy, by the tanks of Putiny, by the tanks of Erdogan, just all the tanks of these guys, and just mow you down, and you're not going to be around anymore. And it's going to be a very unfortunate affair. Thankfully, however, I suspect all that will be happening with us out of this place. So China will likely be the only random environment staying around in the Antichrist regime, do you understand? That will likely just be this thingamabobby that's still strong, do you understand? While everybody else has just been subjugated to the tyranny of everybody. The kings of the East, mow them down, because they think they're a tank in a neighborhood that can just mow down the park. They're going to think they can do that with Jesus. Yes. But it has already commenced, has it not? It has already commenced, you guys. If anything, it started when I was when I was a teenager, or even a preteen. It's been happening for a minute. I just started to notice it when I was a teenager. Okay. When I was on the come up, there was a show that we used to watch back in the daisies called Mind Your Language. It was this funny little comedic show, I believe done in the US, about a whole bunch of people coming from other countries to learn English. And there was this Chinese girl in there, and every single time she would get asked a question, she would bring out a red handbook and speak about how Chairman Mao says that we must do ABC. And we used to think it was funny until I grew up and found out who Mao was, and I was like, "Batong Mao ke mang? Ke mo Mao. Ke ha ba ka o bontsha Mao." Because Chairman Mao was a rubbish dictator that contributed to why it is that all of China today is this this robotic, mindless drone society that has taken in their stride all manner and kinds of supervision over them without too much complaint. And he made it possible for the Pinyin government, the Xi government, to be what it is today. He literally laid the groundwork to make China into a police state. Next part.